So guys, we are more than halfway through the gardening season, and I'm bringing a ton of produce into the kitchen, and so there's one thing that always pops up every year. It's almost unavoidable, and that is fruit flies and also gnats. But I'm going to show you multiple traps, products that you already have in your kitchen, and ways to get rid of those fruit flies and gnats. It's super simple, it's really easy to make, and it's 100% effective. You won't see a single fruit fly or gnat around your kitchen. So let's go into the kitchen. I'll show you how to make this right after I finish collecting all of these fruits, vegetables, and peppers. So guys, this is just today's harvest. This isn't a multi-day harvest, and the garden is producing so much right now, mainly from some of the methods I use in other videos. So if you'll take a look at the library, I think you'll see one of these methods you can try yourself, and it works incredibly well. But this, like I say, is what I brought in today, but a lot of people don't realize, but when you bring in produce from the outside, you're also bringing in the eggs of insects that have laid their eggs on the outside of each piece of produce, and you don't realize it, but within a very short amount of time, you'll have a kitchen filled with fruit flies and small gnats, and this is where it comes from, directly from your garden. And if you think the grocery store is any different, it's the same thing in the grocery store, especially this culprit right here, the banana. It probably brings in more insects into people's home than anything else. So bananas are not exempt from that, but there's a simple trick you can do to preventing this. But let's say you already have an infestation. I'll show you 5 different traps that you can create, and I'm almost guarantee you have at least one of these, a few of these items to make one of these traps in your kitchen already. So let's go through each trap, and I'll show you how to make it, and then I'll show you how to protect yourself from fruit flies, gnats, and things like that from the vegetables in the safest possible way. So before I show you the 5 different types of traps for fruit flies and gnats, there's something you need to do with produce as you bring it inside. You need to make sure that you wash it, but not just in lukewarm water. You need to use something like a Castile soap. This is one of the purest forms of soap you can use, and it's one of the safest. It's actually made from vegetable fats, so that's one of the things that you can use. Also, if you don't have the Castile soap, you could use something like Johnson's baby shampoo. And then lastly, if you do have this product, this is called Dawn Free and Clear, but I would only use a teaspoon on these 2 products and use a full tablespoon on the Castile soap. So if you don't wash your fruits and vegetables first, that's when you'll come out with a really bad infestation of the fruit flies or gnats. So just make sure you do that first. It's critically important because you need to kill any of the eggs or wash them away that are on the outside of any fruits or vegetables. That really becomes true with bananas and apples. They seem to have the most fruit flies and eggs on the outside of the skin area. Now the first of the 5 traps is super simple. You only need one main ingredient, and depending on what you have around your house, you may or may not have it, but apple cider vinegar is your best bet. Fruit flies are attracted to the smell of fermented vinegar, so use that. We're going to show you how to put this together. Super simple. You either need cling wrap or you need a gallon-sized freezer bag, and I actually prefer the gallon-sized freezer bag, and I'll show you real quick why I do. It's a lot easier. Once you put the apple cider vinegar into your bowl, just be very careful because it's so easy to spill out of the bowl. So let's do that first. You only need just maybe 1 ounce in your bowl because the smell is going to attract them to it. We're going to, and it is absolutely strong. From the second I poured it, I could absolutely smell it quickly. So we're going to put that into our gallon-size freezer bag. You don't have to seal the top because we're going to use a rubber band right here. Put the rubber band around the outside of the bowl. That's going to make it really tight. Now, with cling wrap, this next step is a little bit more difficult, but I find that using the gallon freezer bag, because the plastic is thicker, it makes the holes a lot easier. You can't just poke the hole and move on because sometimes the holes are too small for the fruit flies to get in. So once you poke the holes, twist it like that so they'll have enough room to get inside. If it's too small, they won't be able to get into the bowl. So I would say about maybe 5 to 10 holes, just circle right like that. And I'll give you an up close on the camera how large these holes are, but they're larger than the diameter of a toothpick because you have to have it at the right size for the fruit flies to make it inside. So the smell of the fermented vinegar, the apple cider vinegar will come out and will attract the fruit flies to it. If this doesn't work, we have 4 other options you can use to get rid of fruit flies around the house. And there's really a critical place that fruit flies will lay their eggs that you would never think of. But again, this is step number one, and it's usually very effective. But let's move on to trap number two. Now the next trap involves any type of alcohol, any type of red wine, white wine. You could use beer, you could even use kombucha, but what we're going to do is use a very small container. Again, maybe about 1 ounce. The reason I'm going down in container size is I want it to be able to cover the entire base of it without using a lot of the wine or beer or anything like that. Exact same process. We're going to put it into the plastic bag, and again use the exact same rubber band type method. Put it around there like that, poke the holes, and make sure you expand each hole. So any type of fermented beer, wine, alcohol, this works great as well, and sometimes it actually works better because it mimics the smell of rotting fruit. So if you don't have the apple cider vinegar, you do have some beer, alcohol, wine, kombucha, any type of fermented drink, this will attract them even faster. I find that plum wine works best for me, so that's what I had in the fridge. I also like to consume it myself, so I always have a little bit on hand. So let's say you don't have apple cider vinegar or any type of fermented beverage. You can use the fruit itself. This is an overripe banana, so we just take some of the skin, we want to chop it up, cut it up into smaller pieces. And we're going to use the exact same method, but since we don't have the first two products, we're just going to put that in a little bit of water. Before you put the fruit in, put in a little bit of dish soap. I'm using the same Castile soap, and this will spread across the top, but it's a good idea to do a little bit of stirring, kind of mix it there, and then put in your fruit. Do the same thing with your bag. And this rotting fruit, a lot of times it's where your fruit flies, again, as I said earlier, started from. So it's something that's going to attract them naturally. So they absolutely love the smell of overripe fruit, rotting fruit, and it's where they come to lay their eggs. So let's do the same exact procedure, punching about 5 or 6 holes inside of our Ziploc bag. And they'll come in, as that releases an odor, it'll bring them right to us. So rotting fruit or overripe vegetables, anything that is going to put off that specific type of odor will definitely bring them right to the trap. So again, you want to put this close to any fruit you have already out, or any sink or any place like that. But if you're having a problem on the kitchen counters, make sure you put it as close to the problematic area, and usually that involves the sink. So this next fruit fly trap goes back probably over 100 years, and it is a super simple method. You're going to need 4 tablespoons of raw sugar, brown sugar, a dark sugar like this, 1 cup of milk, and 2 tablespoons of black pepper. So this works so well because it kind of mimics the smell of fermentation. So it's super simple to do. I'll show you how to put it together in about 1 minute. Now this is my emergency stove that I'm using. I purchased this directly from South Korea. I believe it's now sold on Amazon, but it actually is. You can see right here there's some Korean writing, but this was actually originally sold in Korea, and I saw it on another video and I liked it so much I thought it was really nice. Good emergency stove. If you ever have power outage, this would be the way to cook your food. It works super simple. All you have to have these little gas canisters. They'll stay forever in your pantry. But let's get started by putting all these ingredients together on probably the oldest type way of catching fruit flies. Okay, we're going to start by heating our 1 cup of milk, and we're just going to put it on a very low boil. We don't want it cut as high as it'll go. We want to cut it down way down low, just a little bit of heat. And then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of our raw sugar or brown sugar. Okay, that's 4 tablespoons of that. And then next we're going to use our 2 tablespoons of black pepper. And so a lot of times if you don't have a lot of the other ingredients, a lot of times people definitely have milk and pepper in their kitchen. So this is one of those things, if you have nothing else, you could use this. You want to stir it, turn the heat up, and you just want it to come to a very, very slow boil. You don't want this to be a rolling boil, but this absolutely will mimic the smell of fermentation and attract them, the fruit flies, the gnats, right to your trap. All right, we're just going to carefully mix this because we want it to be well mixed to produce that imitation smell of fermentation. So we're going to put that together. Don't overheat it. Like I said, you don't need to strong boil, just a very soft boil. And we'll go on to the next step of putting the trap together. Now in this trap, I actually don't put it inside the plastic container. I just leave it out in the open like this. We want it to make it as accessible as possible with the fruit flies and gnats. They're going to go directly in there and drown in our mixture. So it'll only take about 24 hours to get rid of a really heavy fruit fly infestation. Now before we move on to trap number 5, I want to show you something that causes a lot of people to not be able to figure out how the fruit flies are reproducing so quickly. It involves your sinks, usually in the restroom, and I'll show you the trick to making sure that they don't reproduce in bathrooms and kitchens. If you have an overflow on any one of those sinks, I'll show you how to take care of it. Now a lot of people will tell you to pour Clorox down your drain, and there's a little bit of truth to that, but there's a reason why this doesn't always work. But if you see over here in this overflow, a lot of times the fruit flies will go into the overflow and lay their eggs down in this overflow area. So if you're putting Clorox into the drain, it never fully makes it back to this area. So mix a 50-50 mix of Clorox and water and pour it directly in the overflows in the sinks, the showers, anywhere that you have this overflow drain, because a lot of times this has a lot of organic matter in it that is built up over time, and fruit flies, this is a perfect place for them to reproduce, especially the little small gnats, sometimes referred to as drain flies. So the last fruit fly trap just involves regular honey, an index card, and some string. It's super simple to make, and this one really works great if you don't have any other ingredients. It's a little bit more complex to put together, but still pretty simple. So with our index cards, they're a little bit thicker than ordinary paper, and yellow is your preferred color. That's going to attract the most fruit flies. And on this red one right here, I'll just demonstrate how to put this together. You're going to punch a hole in the top of it. You're going to tie a little bit of string into the top. And you're going to place these near any type of fruit you have on counters, any trash cans, anywhere that you're having a problem with fruit flies. Also, you're going to want to have a drip tray below it. So that's basically what you're going to do. You're going to take this right here, and you're going to put just a little bit of honey on it. You can spread it with a spoon or a small knife, and you want to make sure that it's just covered in the sticky substance all the way up and down, because the fruit flies are going to be attracted to this. Now you can put it on both sides or just one side, and then again hang it. If there's any possibility of dripping, if your honey is a little bit more runny than this honey is pretty thick, so I don't think it's going to drip very quickly, but just hang it anywhere near fruit flies, and again, having a drip tray will keep it from making a mess. The fruit flies will come to the trap and get stuck to it, and you can dispose of it very quickly and easily. Now there's a few more critical things you need to do to make sure you don't have a severe fruit fly infestation. Is you need to remember that anytime you throw any type of discarded fruit into the trash, you could be putting the eggs into the trash, and suddenly you'll open it up and you have just in that area, whether it's a compactor or up under a cabinet, you'll just have swarms of fruit flies in there. So make sure that you do some cleaning with alcohol sanitizer. This is just pure rubbing alcohol. I'll spray all around the system of the trash compactor and also the trash cans. Make sure you also use an alcohol sanitizer to wipe down your counter. Again, use the method of washing all of your fruits with the Castile soap or the very soft baby soap or the free and clear soap from Dawn. Also, you want to make sure that you refrigerate any fruits or vegetables to slow down the decomposition process, because the rotting fruit will also attract fruit flies. So you may have a door open just for a second and one may come in that way. So just make sure you clean the fruit as well as possible and then store it properly. Now another thing that's really important to do is to clean your drains. And if you have a septic system, you may find that it's not a good idea to put bleach in it, because you could kill the good bacteria in your system. So you can use a cup of white vinegar and 2 tablespoons of baking soda, mix it well, and then pour it into the drain, and also pour it into the overflows in your bathroom drains or in your bathroom showers. This will also kill any of the eggs or any of the drain flies or the other type of flies that live inside, the gnats that are living inside the system there. So common white vinegar will help. The 3% type is great. Now if this is a reoccurring problem with fruit flies and you just find it happening over and over, you can use something like a 1 or 2 liter soda bottle, cut the top off, and then just invert it like this. You can keep refilling it with whatever the products we've talked about previously, and this will be a long-term solution, so you don't have to keep punching holes and plastic. You can reuse this over and over and over. So if it is a lot bigger than a normal type of problem, then using something like a soda bottle would work even better. You can fill it maybe a little bit more full so more of the smell can get out. But just a common small soda bottle all the way up to a 2 or 3 liter would work great if you're having the problem reoccur over and over and you don't want to have to keep using Ziplocs or cling wrap. So guys, whether you're growing eggplants or peppers, whatever it might be, you're going to encounter this problem eventually. Fruit flies and all these other types of small insects will lay their eggs right on the outside of the fruit. So it's always a good idea to go through this entire process of cleaning it, and then if you have an infestation, use one of those 5 trapping methods and you'll find it works great. Guys, if you have a question about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first. I always put those people to the very front of the line, so if you have a question or comment you want me to respond to, please do that first. Guys, I really appreciate you watching and have a great day.